My name is Redmoon Song. I chose that name about 8 years ago and chose to wear red, white, and black all the time to remind me of the sacred energy of Goddess, the Maiden, the Mother, and the Crone, to remind me in a culture that is designed and a military model to a great extent that doesn't include me and my values as a grandmother, that this is a consistent reminder to myself and to my friends that my name and my clothing and my whole life ideally moves into a pattern that I want to express so that it's immediately recognizable. I'm interested in sustainability. I'm a grandmother, and so I've been, especially the past few years, working with councils of grandmothers. The Hopis say when the grandmothers speak, the world will heal. And so I have to ask questions of my Native American grandmothers and other grandmothers all over the world. What is the role that I play as a grandmother in my tribe? What is the need of young people today? What are the skills that I have to offer? What is my role among them? And it was so interesting with people coming in here because I was going to say one of the most satisfying things that happened to me last year at the annual Rainbow Gathering was that we had a council of grandmothers, we had a council of grandfathers, we had a council of elders, and this was the first time this has happened in the 25 years of the Rainbow family. And we set it up with the elders in the center and other people sitting around the outside and listening, which is how traditional cultures dealt with passing on information, where the older people would speak among themselves and the young people could listen or walk away or nurse their babies or whatever, and that's how wisdom was passed down in a way that's not threatening or not intrusive, but a way that you come in and you hear as much as you can hear then, and you go away and you listen and think about it, and then you come back. So part of what I try to do as an activist is to go to different actions, whether it's here at the Nevada Test Site or whether it's at Ward Valley or whether it's at the Rainbow Family or whether it's at the Women's Music Festival or wherever it might be. And I encourage people to live sustainably because most of the people I encounter are visionaries, are very hard workers, and I appreciate that. But if we don't live sustainably now, and who is it that said that there is no way to peace? Peace is the way. So what does that mean about how we eat, about how we use waste products, about how we recycle, about how much energy we use? So always I am thinking, and I became a vegetarian primarily because I realized that putting 17 pounds of protein into a cow and getting 1 pound of protein out was an inefficient conversion ratio that kept the price of grain up on the world market, so poor people all over the world could not even afford grain. So when I found that out, and I found out that I could change my eating habits, and I could therefore change dramatically my relationship to people all over the world, then I became more spiritual because I began to understand that my spirituality was recognizing that everyone in the world, all the plants, the animals, the people, the clouds, are my sisters and brothers, and that I can affect what's going on with everyone all over the world directly by how I choose to use my energy every single day. And I recognize that our energy, 24 hours a day of it, is so precious and so unique to each one of us. And if we are not careful, very careful about where we put it, it's being used by others, always. Whenever we don't know where our energy is being focused, someone else is using that energy, the dominant system generally. So as a woman, I've studied a great deal about societies, especially indigenous and pre-patriarchal societies where the resources were controlled by women. And that's true of indigenous cultures in this country today. And so the women controlled the resources, so their children were fed first, because that's how women run their cultures when they have control of resources. And then in systems where women control the resources are very, very different in their attitudes and their behavior towards women. And so I really encourage everybody, both women and men, to constantly look at where their resources are being expended and who and what are they supporting, either consciously or unconsciously. So when I go around to different groups, I encourage people to eat well. I encourage them to sleep well. I encourage them to recreate and to pray and to do circles around their food. I encourage them to take the time to be parents or to work with other people who have small children, because learning to live sustainably in family is the way most of the people in the world live. Most of those countries that we call, quote unquote, third world countries are places where there is a role for grandmothers, and there is a role for children, and there is a role for family life in the daily life of the people. And it's only what I've seen in the more industrialized countries where people are working at such a frenetic pace for what? For what? for more things, for enrichment for their children. I don't know. But it's in those countries that I see the most alienation, the most suicide, and the most mental health problems. The World Health Organization says that within the next 10 years, depression will be the major cause of illness in the world. And so when people here that have spoken before are talking about global economics and the powerlessness that people feel all over the world, what I'm seeing is that depression and that lack of control, that feeling that what can we do against these giant multinational corporations. And so I encourage people to take the time to recreate, to take the time to vision of where their energy can go, because the whole idea of the 100th monkey to me can occur at any second. And it may occur with more people becoming conscious, or it may occur with less people becoming more conscious. So I encourage people who have some consciousness already to get as radical as possible.